So on this week's episode of Be More Super, the podcast, we've got a real treat. This lady is a filmmaker, an acting coach, and a performer. It's Michelle Danner. Michelle, welcome to the show.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
It is my pleasure. And as always with all my guests, I do a little check-in to see how you've been over the last year and a half with the pandemic. How are you keeping positive and moving those feet forwards? What's happening in Michelle's world?
Well, for me, it's been a life-changing time. It's been pretty extraordinary. The biggest lesson that I got from it was to just stop a little bit running on the treadmill, and by stopping and by being able to reflect, reassess, reevaluate, I came up with gold all around. So it was an absolutely productive, creative time, a time with my family, with my kids, where we just got to do some close bonding. And it was just, I didn't stop. I was one of the few that did not stop living during this time
Mm.
because I took a lot of precautions, and knock wood, I didn't get sick. I was, however, very heartbroken several times during these 18 months for all the people that
Mm.
did, and some of the people that did not make it, quite a few actually. So that
Mm.
was definitely, that really, and I knew people that died.
Mm.
So that was very, very hard. So it was almost felt a little bit selfish because we had such a creative time. We were able
Mm.
to develop projects. I edited a movie. I traveled actually quite a lot, but spraying all the seats of the planes and traveling with a little portable steam machine, very effective. And we
Oh, wow.
steamed all the hotel rooms.
Oh.
So we were just really, really careful, and of course wearing masks. And when we were able to get our vaccines, we got them.
Mm.
Um, so yeah,
I
there's a
mean,
way to do it, to take the
mm.
precautions and don't stop living.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a very hard time, but I suppose we've got to look at the positives as well. That it's a giant reset button. I mean, seeing pictures of is it Venice and the waterways being crystal clear again, and just showing what impact we have made on the world. And how creative people have been since the lockdown, using that time to reconnect with loved ones and actually talking to their other halves and their kids because they're at home. So there are some positives, but yeah, I mean, we've all had losses, unfortunately, and they'll always be remembered. And all we can do is do our part and follow guidance and guidelines and touch wood. It all becomes a better future very, very soon for us. But we're here today to talk about your wonderful career, Michelle, because like myself, I did performing arts at college and university. I did it to overcome a stutter. Believe it or not, I went into acting to get over a stutter. And believe it or not, when I was reading a script or singing a song, I didn't stutter, which was the oddest thing in the world. So it gave me a lot of confidence. And the work that you have done is just fantastic, reading it on paper. So we're here to talk about you and how life began for you, because before you became this acting coach and this wonderful director, you had a very colourful childhood, especially with your father being in the business as well. If you could talk about any stories of when you was a child, because I think I read that he worked for the William Morris agency, and you were surrounded by stars. I think that's just crazy.
Yes, my father bypassed the mailroom at the William Morris Agency, and because he spoke many languages and he was already a famous producer in South America, the William Morris Agency asked him to open the very first offices off the Champs Elysees in the '60s, and he became their president. And so I grew up in the midst of the entertainment world, actors from all different countries and performers and coming to the house and having dinner. And I, the big story was that I used to tap dance on the coffee table when I was 3 years old and do imitations of Alfred Hitchcock and Judy Garland and Ed Sullivan. And so I captivated apparently the the agents of the William Morris. But mostly I grew up in, a literary world, a world of books. I loved
Mm,
books. And I took acting classes at a young age and guitar classes. And, my parents were very hippies, definitely not the world, but liberal and loose and fun. And they would have parties, and people would come to the house and just go into the kitchen and pull out from the cupboards whatever they could find and cook this giant big paella rice and play the piano and sing songs. And anyway, I was just always immersed in a lot of
mm.
creativity at a very young age, and that followed me into my adult life.
I was going to say, did that influence you into getting into the career that you are in now? I mean, it must have put that fire under you to be where you are now.
Well, I'm sure it did. I think that, going back to what you said before, and I love what you said about the giant reset. I think you're right. Um, for whatever acting classes, art classes, music classes, dance classes, artistic classes are there to help our kids, all of our
Mm,
kids. And I think that's why arts is so important in the schools.
mm,
I'm just a great believer in, I was just really lucky to have grown up in Europe, to have traveled all over Europe, to have that, background of studying in France, in Paris, and going on Sundays to Le Palais de Versailles, and to go to different castles and museums and just being immersed with in art. I think you
mm,
either have that chip or you don't. But if you don't, which is okay, if a child is born, with different chips, but not the creative ones, um, at least I think that there's so much value in introducing them to
mm,
the artistic world, to the arts, all forms of arts. I think it
mm.
can only expand someone, push the goalposts and deepen one's humanity.
Definitely. And once this pandemic is over, the first thing I'll be doing, because I've got an 8-year old little girl and a 4-year old little girl as well, and is to take them to the theatre. I mean, they are both so creative; it's unbelievable. And I'm one of these people that I don't want to push them into a direction that I want to push them into, but for them to be happy. So we might have a couple of Shirley Temples on our hands with them because they are so adorable. So when you were starting out, in your career, how challenging was it? Back then, being not only a woman but being in that industry. Oh,
Sorry,
it's all right. Is that your dog?
they're terrible dogs. I
It's
mean,
okay.
it's challenging. It was challenging. Uh, it's challenging for everybody. As an acting coach, I work with a lot of sons and daughters of
Mm,
stars, well-known legends. And I think even if you're, the child of a big star and supposedly there's this nepotism attached, and that it only goes a certain way. It can open up a door or two,
mm,
but it doesn't really take you to the finish line. So
mm,
the challenges are the same. I'm only saying that because, at some point my dad also, introduced me to some people, and it only takes you to a certain point. After that,
mm,
you have to be able to, to go and continue to deliver. Um, I think it took me a while to understand
mm,
what needed to be done. I
mm,
think, I don't think that I had the right, and interestingly enough, I mean, I had my dad who was just a wonderful dad and guided me through so much. But, whether he didn't know or, I don't know. I just feel like when it comes, for instance, to my kids and specifically my 19-year-old who just turned 19, and I facilitated for him a pitch for
mm,
accredited investors of a movie that he wrote, and he killed it, and everybody was interested and gave him the thumbs up. Um, like if I had known back then when I was starting out what I know now, obviously I think things could have been very different
mm,
in terms of a trajectory. But I don't think that I was meant to experience whatever challenges I have experienced, and they were a lot. And there's things that I wanted to do that I just did not get to do and wasn't meant to do. But I think maybe what was really meant to be was for me to be a mentor to my children and to show them, the way. Again, it's not that you can put it on a silver platter for anybody,
Mm.
because you can't. But
Mm.
at least to say, to guide them, to be able, and I think everybody needs that. Everybody needs to be guided. Everybody needs that coach, so
Mm.
that there's always going to be challenges, but at least that you find a way to overcome them, and you get on the right path.
Mm. Definitely, definitely. And talking about coaching, you're the co-founder of the Edgemar Center for the Arts and Los Angeles Acting Conservatory. So, what does that entail? What is that? Is that a acting school? Is that I'm unsure what that is. It sounds very impressive.
Throughout the years, although the last 18 months we've, had a bit of a hiatus.
Mm.
We did theater and shows and musicals and outreach programs for children and senior citizens. Um, we brought the community together in our art gallery. And so we've done a lot, and we're going to continue to. It's still, we're still in the pandemic as we speak. We're in
Mm.
a different phase of it, but we're still in it. But Broadway has reopened, which is, so joyous. And
Mm.
I'll be going in December with my kids and masks, and very excited to do so. And our acting school is the foundation of everything. So the Los Angeles Acting Conservatory offers programs to actors all over the world, and they do come from all over the world, because before COVID, I used to teach everywhere. I went to South
Mm.
Africa, I went to Moscow, I went to South America, to Canada, and I
Wow.
teach a master class called the Golden Box, which is very much what our philosophy is, that every actor develops their own very, very unique, specific toolbox, where they put not only insights that they learn from the craft about how to create character breakdown scripts, but also life lessons, things that happen
Mm.
in their life. All of that goes into that golden box that they have the key of, because it's a very unique golden box that is customized individually for each person.
Mm.
And so, I'm happy to say that our school, our acting school, is so vibrant. I have an extraordinary faculty of teachers that have graduated from top schools in the country. And I know from, the feedback and the growth of our students, how impactful it is. And I'm just very happy to be able to offer that, to have created a vibrant playground for students to come and learn skills and
Mm.
learn the craft of acting, because there is a craft to be
Mm.
learned.
Yeah, and I went through many years of Chekhov and Stanislavski and all that, and I think that I've blocked it out now, just because it was so much, it was so heavy at times, and it's quite refreshing to hear you say you give your students their own little box and their key of their customized way of acting for them, because I've got friends that went to RADA, and they often said that a place like RADA, they're telling you how to be that actor, not trying to get that toolkit for you to become the actor that you want to be. So it's quite refreshing to hear that. I mean, do you think the pandemic is going to have an impact on future students and stars coming out to learn and to obviously get jobs? Do you think there's going to be a rolling impact around the pandemic?
Well, there's already been an incredible impact, obviously. But one of the things that I was just amazed by is, I thought to myself when it started, and it started in March of last year. When it came to July, I was like, well, they're going to run out of content. It's not
Mm.
possible.
Mm.
Is there that much in the reservoir of content in TV shows
Mm.
and in movies? And there was,
Mm.
and there was. I don't think there's enough a lifetime that
Mm.
each one of us has to watch everything that needs to be
Mm.
watched. And people went and they, dipped into international TV shows, which we know some of them are quite phenomenal.
Mm.
Um, so I think that, one of the things we've learned is that there's a lot of
Mm.
content. I think that the way that people are getting jobs obviously had changed, because people are doing Zoom, and
Mm.
they're auditioning through Zoom and landing jobs through Zoom. And so that's also, as opposed to going in person and
Mm.
making connection in person, which of course is always great. But you know what? We have found some intimacy through Zoom. Um, but but I think that mostly what there's going to be so much, I think, so much more content that's about to come out because people having taken a pause. Who doesn't have a script, a TV show, something that they want to shoot? I
Mm,
mean, and you see it now. I was watching, these Broadway shows rehearse, The Lion King, Frozen, how they were Hamilton, how on fire people are to get back to work.
mm,
I mean, after been hibernating for all these months, there's a fire in everybody's belly.
mm,
And I know there is one in mine. I mean, I just had a important meeting this morning about moving forward, one of the movies that we have that we're going to shoot early next year. Um, there's a desire, there's a hunger, there is a commitment, there's an energy that is palpable, I think, from so many places, whether it's in the theater or in the
mm.
movies or developing shows.
And do you know what? I can't wait for more West End shows to come on, as well as the Broadway ones. Because when you said about the fire, I know a lot of West End cast that when they were out of work, they went and worked in the community as care workers for the elderly and everything like that. And then they're back to rehearsals now. So it's going to be happy days to come. I can't wait to go down there and see a few of the shows. So obviously we're going to talk about your directing, because you directed your first movie in 2006, which was, and I've got a little poster here. How to Go Out on a Date in Queens with the wonderful Jason Alexander and the lovely Ron Perlman there at the bottom. I mean, obviously, you've gone from, coaching acting and everything like that, which you obviously do now. What possessed you to go into directing? Because it's got to be such a challenging job.
It's not only a challenging job, but it's also a lonely job. But it's ultimately very rewarding. Um, I think when I was at Catalina Island this weekend, whenever you get to see your work and with a lot of people around you,
Mm,
and you hear responses around you, it's very, very rewarding. I wanted to direct because ultimately teaching is storytelling. It's telling stories. It's
mm,
passing things down. And with directing, I saw it also with, playing to the biggest classroom that you can possibly, play in.
mm,
And you just reach a lot of people. And I always had a desire to tell certain stories that I wanted to tell about, human beings and one's inhumanity towards one another. And also another theme that always speaks to me in terms of storytelling is our children
mm,
falling through the cracks and adults not being there to help them through. So there's always been some very specific things that I have wanted to say in my storytelling. And one of the things, having worked with actors for so many years, being on set and just being improvisational with them and collaborating with them and playing with them has been very rewarding.
mm,
And it's so I love telling stories, and I love especially creating something from scratch
mm,
and just making it happen, something that did not exist, but you had the idea, you put it together, you picked all the pieces, you painted the colors on the canvas, and then you sign it, and
mm.
then you let it go and you let the world see it.
I mean, how daunting was it? Because this being your first feature film di- directing, did you go in there with everyone knowing it was your first film, or did you have to prepare yourself to go in to actually,
Yeah.
to direct?
No, everybody knew that it was
Did
my
they?
first film, but I also asked friends of mine to be in it, people that I knew. So, I had Jason Alexander and Ron Perlman and Rob Estes and Kimberly Williams Paisley and Allison Eastwood. So I had some wonderful, and everybody else that I knew, everybody else that I had relationships with.
Mm,
Uh, Isa Morales was in it. Um, so I had a wonderful cast. We tried a little rom com for the times, set in Queens, and that was a
mm,
long time ago. I mean, since then I've done another four feature films, and I'm about to
mm.
prep for my sixth one.
I mean, as your acting, approach changed from 2006 to now 2021.
I'm sure it has. I'm sure that it has, the way that I communicate
Mm,
with actors, the way that I see things. I probably streamline it in a different way. Um, whereas before, 20 years ago, I probably needed to express it 5 different ways. I think if I just express it in a very strong way, it's
mm,
sufficient. I can get through. So I think, I've learned from every experience. I try to remember the mistakes that I made so I didn't make the same ones. I always say,
mm,
always different mistakes, but don't make the same ones over and over again. So
mm,
everything has been a wonderful,
mm.
wonderful lesson.
Yeah, I mean, I see a director as being like a conductor of an orchestra. You've got all your musicians there, and they're all looking to you. Um, and I can imagine that you learn a lot of lessons. What has been the biggest lesson that you've learned while directing everything that you have?
Um, it probably would have to do with preparation because I was very nervous right before going on set for the first day of principal photography in my first movie. And I remember running into Steven Spielberg and Tom Hanks. They were
Oh
having
wow.
breakfast. Yeah, and I ran into him. I said, I knew Steven because he had been a generous contributor to our theater. And I said, I'm so nervous. I'm going on set. It's my first movie. And he said, when you direct your 20th movie, you'll still be nervous. So
Mm,
I always remembered that. And I think that if you're prepared and accept whatever preparation you have, I remember the night before, I was looking at all these directing books that I hadn't had a chance to read. And I thought, oh my God, I'm not prepared. I'm not ready. And like, no, no, whatever you have, whatever preparation you have is good enough. Just
mm,
believe that. And
mm,
I did. And, and I grow all the time. I mean, I'm someone who really pushes myself to watch a lot of things and to read a lot. I'm always interested in, learning. Um, so I'm sure that, this last movie that I did, The Runner, is probably my best movie. I think I've learned from each experience and helped me for the next.
Well, you know what? Funny enough, let's talk about The Runner because tomorrow is the premiere of The Runner at the Chinese Theatre in LA, which is absolutely awesome. If you could tell us a bit about the movie, what it's about, give us a bit of a taste of what to expect, and when is it going to be released?
The movie is, I wrote the treatment for it one night after I saw a news report about how kids were being wired up by police enforcement to capture the big drug lord, the big drug
Wow.
pin of the time. And of course, tragedies happen. Parents don't know about it. Children are underage. Uh, all for a good thing, but nevertheless danger for our children. And that compelled me to write a treatment that I sent to Jason Chase Terrell, wonderful writer, a friend of mine, and he turned around a screenplay, and we worked on it. And I had a student in my class that I thought was, really right for the part, Edouard Philippona, and I gave him the script. And I mean, the rest is history. Things are meant to be in life. We were not going to shoot it till April, and if we would have waited, we would have never done this movie. Actually, I know this now. But the fact that we pushed to shoot it before the lockdown, uh,
Mm,
it's just something in life where it was uncomfortable. It was taking risks, but we did it. And that it was great because it was, I think, an important movie for me to have made. Um, the kid that's in it, it's great when you are able to discover new talent. And he was on set this summer in the new Ridley Scott movie, The House of Gucci, playing opposite Lady Gaga. And
oh
because of
wow.
this movie, he got repped by a big talent agency in town. Um, so the movie has played virtually and in person to almost 30 film festivals. Some notable ones were CineQuest and WorldFest Houston and Suspense Thriller and New Filmmakers. And this summer I went to Italy I went to Ischia for the film festival, the Ischia Global Festival, which was nothing short than an extraordinary experience. And this last weekend we were in Catalina, and we had an awesome experience there, which we've won a lot of awards. The movie won for best movie and best cinematography and best acting, and I won like 6 awards for best directing. So yeah, and tomorrow night we're going to be at the Chinese, which is exciting,
Wow.
and we're going to have a full house. We're all going to wear masks, but it's yeah, it's very exciting. I'm glad that I did this movie, and it's going to be released, I believe, either right before the end of the year or beginning of next year.
Wow. Brilliant. Oh, cannot wait. It looks absolutely phenomenal and the cast is superb. And the fact that it's already been given awards, it just shows, it's quite nice because I suppose as a director, you wait for your film to be released and then you wait for the feedback from the moviegoers. But it's great to get acknowledgement from these festivals, before they actually go out. I think it's
Yeah,
fantastic and it just shows
and
how,
some of these festivals have been, like I said, internationally. So in London, we
mm,
get 3 early reviews, and they were all excellent. And here, some reviewers review the film festival. So we have a total like 5 really, really good reviews.
mm.
So that's great. It gives you a
And
sense a little bit, how it's received.
and you obviously are very very busy because you were producing a play, I think, with the wonderful Anne Archer, which she is such a phenomenal actress. She really is. I mean, is that still going ahead, or is that being paused for the
Yes.
time being?
No, no, no. We're just, dogs with bones. We're not letting go of this project. We've been rehearsing it for the past year. I can't even say any words
Mm,
about Anne Archer. Uh, I mean, we love her. Everybody loves her. And her and I have particularly found just a great way of working together. And it's a beautiful play. It's the story. It's called A Ticket to the Circus. It's a memoir. It's based on a memoir by Norris Church-Mailer, written by Bonnie Culver, a friend of hers, and it's about her life with Norman Mailer, who was such an iconic, strong, extraordinary writer. And his son, John Buffalo Mailer, is a friend of mine. He brought me the project, and then I went to Anne, and John and I collaborated in a movie years ago called Hello Herman, starring Norman Reedus,
mm.
which has gotten 1.5 million views, the trailer on YouTube, and people have loved it. So yeah, it's exciting to get back to the theater and to do this theater piece. Although we're going to start doing it out first virtually, so
Mm,
it's gonna air virtually first, and then we'll do it in the theater.
mm. Wow, very very busy. And what's been your proudest moment in your career to date so far? Because you've done so much. We were only scratching the surface on your life and your career. I mean, what has been your proudest moment?
You know, my proudest moment has to do obviously with my children,
Mm.
and particularly this last weekend, my son pitched a movie idea that he had, a script, things that go bump in the night, horror comedy,
Oh
family,
wow.
um, a piece. And we talked about how he was going to pitch. He had never pitched before. It was his first pitch, and it was in front of all these accredited investors. And we gave him, we rehearsed him a little bit. And the night before, he was very tired because he goes to USC, and he's a straight A student. And he takes his studies, very seriously.
Mm.
So, the night before, I said, it's okay. It's good that you didn't do good, because that's always like that. Dress rehearsal
Mm.
doesn't go well, and then you open. And and then he went into the room, and there were a lot of people there, and he pitched it, and he just killed it. I mean, he killed it on a level that was just unreal. And I'm not saying that because I'm the proud mother, because so many people came up to me afterwards and said so many wonderful things. But I have to say that that was a pure moment of happiness for me. Um, more than any accomplishments that I could have in my life, which are wonderful when I do, and when I fail, I fail. It's all good too. I learn from everything. But to watch my children, to watch my son, sail like that. That's it. That's the gold.
And it sounds like it's definitely in the genes that being a success, which is fantastic. I mean, with your directing, who's a person that you've never directed before that you'd love to be able to direct in a feature?
Yeah, well, there's many, but I love this particular actor, Damian Lewis. I watch
Oh.
him in a lot of things that he's done lately in Billions. Obviously,
Mm,
he played Brody on Homeland.
mm,
I just love his talent. He's got a really wonderful talent, and he's got a very, very pure humanity in him,
mm,
which really translates in front of the camera. And to watch him spar and duel with another favorite actor of mine, Paul Giamatti, and
mm,
watch the two of them, bounce it off of each other. There's one scene particularly in the end of season one that I always refer to. Uh, and he's just, I love him I mean, of course, I have many actors that I love, but if I had to say right now, somebody that I would love to work with, it would be him.
mm. No, he is a fantastic actor, and I didn't realise he was English for quite a long time because he was very good with his accents. I think I first saw him in Band of Brothers, and he
Yeah.
played Colonel Winters, and he was just astonishing in that. And growing up, what were your top three films? What really inspired you in the film world? To watch.
Oh, okay. Well, there might not be films that you think. There's so many, it's really hard. But, um, when I was young, I loved Gone with the Wind, which, of course, I know there's a whole controversy around it. I watched it
Oh,
not too long ago with my kids.
yeah.
I love Terms of Endearment is a movie that I've always loved for many reasons, but I love to laugh and then to really be moved,
Mm,
to really get a punch in the gut. I mean, people remember, it to be sad, but I remember it to be really funny before it gets
mm,
sad. Um, I love When Harry Met Sally. I love that
mm.
movie. I love romantic comedies, and I'm about to direct two comedies. So
Oh,
that's the
that's
good news. I've done a lot
that's
of like action thrillers and horror, but now I'm going to really dig into some comedies.
one of my favourite movies, which not many people know, is a movie called Somewhere in Time with Jane Seymour and
Yes,
Christopher Reeve.
I
Back
know
from
that.
1980, absolutely astonishing. So romantic, and I cry every time. I'm a big baby when it comes down to romantic films.
Yeah.
So how can the viewers follow you on social media and your future projects? I mean, you're on Instagram and Twitter, I presume.
Yes, Michelle Danner, I think LA, Michelle Danner acting classes. I'm making this face because I'm never sure what all this social media is, but
I will make sure
I think
I will put it on the screen. So we'll just point down, and then it will magically appear. So people can follow you on Instagram and Twitter and your website as well. And we've got the runner coming out towards the end of the year, maybe in the new year. But from everything you've said so far, I think it's going to be an absolute amazing movie, and I cannot wait to watch it. But Michelle, you've been a great guest. Thank you so much for joining me all the way from the City of Angels. I presume you're in LA. Is it LA you're
I am
in
an
at the moment?
yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Technology is fantastic. All the way from LA to the UK, we are connecting and finding out some amazing stories. But Michelle, thank you so much for joining me. Keep safe and all the best.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Thank you.